Welcome to another edition of Success Talk. This is Dr. Herbert Harris bringing you another exciting individual who's accomplishing great things, who's facing challenges, but who's making breakthroughs. And today we have my cyber expert, Jimmy Davis. Welcome, Jimmy.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harris, for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Well, I tell you, man, every time I was looking at your logo there, and every time I look at the work you're doing with the group, Every Dot Black, I'm just amazed, man, because I've sort of been around to kind of see it evolving. And so I say congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Why don't we just tell our folks, our audience, a little about the group Every Dot Black, how it came about, and what you're doing now. What's the goals of the group?
Sure. Oh boy, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I will tell them this. My background is I used to teach people how to use software, all types of software during the 90s, when no one knew how to use anything. Microsoft Word, Excel, Photoshop, all this stuff was coming out and no one knew how to use anything. And then I started specializing in database development with a program called FileMaker. I was a FileMaker database developer, helping companies manage all types of data. But around 2015, I wasn't really feeling fulfilled. I was always helping other people with their their data, their information. I thought, well, what do I want to do? And
Mm,
so I started actually going to a meeting with Dr. Joel Dudley Sr., the mastermind meetings, and they preach entrepreneurship. And the light bulb went on that I need to use my technology skills to help entrepreneurs with their technology, to combine the two. And so in 2018, I officially launched Every Dot Black. And the purpose is to assist entrepreneurs with their technology, but also provide weekly mastermind meetings so they can network. And also, we have speakers in, like yourself. We have speakers in all the time to learn from, and we read books. And actually, the first book that we read in our mastermind meetings was the 12 Universal Laws of Success. and actually we read it twice. We went through cover to cover, and then we did it again.
wow.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
and it was very, very good. I recommend that book all the time. I think it was a wonderful read. A lot of life lessons to learn in there. But anyway, what we do is, like I said, we support entrepreneurs basically in any ways that we can. And I really push the envelope of technology, because I tell people it doesn't matter what kind of business you have today. It doesn't matter. You've got to develop some technology skills. I mean, we wouldn't have technology skills if we weren't on Zoom right now.
Right.
So you've got to develop some tech skills regardless of the business you're in, and stay abreast of it too, because it changes all the time. So,
Wow. Well, Jimmy, as you were sharing that, I was just thinking, as an entrepreneur, if you're not in it, you're out of it. If the technology is developing so fast now, as a matter of fact, everybody's talking about this artificial intelligence. Now, you're
yeah.
probably at the front of the line on that.
Well, I'm not at the front of the line, but I'm trying to get there. So actually, I set up a class, and I don't remember the exact date. I think it's coming up in May, where we're going to have a class on artificial intelligence, Chat GPT, and artificial intelligence. We also had another one on the metaverse, which is also a hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
The metaverse and Chat GPT. Uh, the artificial intelligence is really amazing. I don't know how they do it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's here to stay, where it can literally write you a book, a poem, a song. It can do coding. I mean, I don't know how they do that, but it's changing things rapidly. And yeah, we need to stay abreast of that as well.
Mm. Well, when I was in college, oh God, and that was a long time ago. That was in the punch card era. Okay. When I was in college, one of my classmates was really at the forefront of a lot of this technology. He was what was it called? Information theory.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was actually a professor at Columbia University in information theory. And when we would talk sometimes, he sort of talked about this day that was coming. He was saying that the one of our greatest assets is information,
Yeah.
and that the power of the computer was to be able uh, to store, catalog, and manipulate and access information.
Right.
And then now, I guess we, with this artificial intelligence, to lay on that layer of processing information, uh, almost like a human being would think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things you're talking that come to mind. The guy that they call the father of the computer, his name
Mhm.
is Charles Babbage, and he
Mhm.
actually, I don't know if you heard of him or not, but he actually had the concept of having a computer in 1825,
Ah.
and uh, he was English. He got the English government to back him financially, and he worked on it his entire life, but he never got it to work just right.
Mhm.
But I think it was his daughter she saved his notes, and from his notes was used, he came up with the theory to use bits and bytes or zeros and ones, but from his notes, then they over time developed the computer. But even though he thought of this in the early 1800s, when he
Wow.
thought of this. And the other thing is that I tell people, sometimes they don't realize why technology is important. And the way I look at it is I ask myself, why did the civil rights movement happen in the 1960s?
Mm.
And this is my personal theory. And I
Mhm.
think it's because if you think about it, technology changed during the 60s when everyone
Mm.
had transistor radios, everyone had TVs, and people can see that what was going on in different places like Alabama or Mississippi, whatever. You could see it. I remember as a kid, we were watching it, things were going on. So then I went on the internet to see, well, what happened in 1800s? And sure enough, around 1850, 1860, there were changes in photography. The steam powered printing press allowed Frederick Douglass to print the North Star, the newspaper. So technology changed and information would be shared faster. And it made it, I think it was, had an impact during the Civil War. It definitely had an impact during the civil rights during the 60s.
Mhm.
And now, I say Barack Obama, would he be president if it not been for the internet? Is
Mm.
able to
Yeah.
rate hundreds of millions of dollars through the internet.
Yes.
So when technology changes, it affects us directly, even though we may not think about it, but it really does. It's all linked together.
Yeah. Well, when you were sharing that, I was thinking that a large part of progress comes from awareness. Like if you don't know,
Hmm.
and then you don't even know that you don't know,
Right,
yeah, you're gonna stay stuck. But anytime information can be disseminated,
right.
it makes people think. And now I lived through the civil rights era. I grew up in the South. I went to segregated schools. But when I saw pictures of dogs attacking children and the water
Mhm.
hoses and pictures of Emmett Till and things like that, it gave it a whole nother dimension
Exactly,
that required your involvement. Mhm.
exactly.
Mm,
And
yeah.
and computers, the difference is computers changes technology completely because now those pictures can be transferred by anyone. Back in the day, it was your major news stations, ABC or CBS, NBC. But now anyone with a cell phone in your hand we see this all the time.
Yeah.
Some incident going on and somebody recorded on a cell phone for notice on the evening news. It just the technology has changed,
Yeah.
like I said, made people aware of anything, anywhere, anytime. So yes,
Well, you look at George Floyd and the cell phone. If that cell phone video had not been shot,
exactly,
you know, it would have been a very different outcome. You know,
exactly, yeah.
and
And how
and
many George Fords were there before? That
yes,
we'll never know about.
wow.
You know,
I guess on a philosophical level, it seems that human beings have a desire really to do good. You know,
I
a,
believe that.
yeah, and a desire to see good. And so when if you're not paying attention, bad things can happen. But if it's not in your face, you can proceed along with your world. But when through the computer and other devices, you're able to put it in people's faces.
Right. Exactly.
And you can transform. Well, you look at a lot of the negativity, a lot of the harshness on the internet now. I mean, people will live and die based on what they see on the internet.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, when I think about every dot black in the mission, and I've spoken to the group, in many ways, it's like an oasis of people who have had a sincere desire to let me turn this off. that
Okay.
this happens, man. I tell you, the people who have a sincere desire to learn, to practice, and to master entrepreneurial skills and really take charge of their lives. And so, this platform that you have created is unique in the sense that, and it's not, it's every dot black, but I notice you have a diverse audience. I think
Oh yeah.
people, yeah, people who want to see and be a whole different level of involvement with the focus being technology.
Yeah, and going back again, talking about the civil rights movement, like I said, we got a civil rights, but I think the next piece is economic equality that we
Mm,
don't have. But
right,
I think
right.
that in order to have that, it's got to be through entrepreneurship, and we got to utilize technology. That can level the playing field, and also thinking of it globally. And so when COVID happened, we went virtual. We used to meet in Raleigh, a little place in Raleigh each week. But when COVID happened, we went virtual. Once we went virtual, we literally started bringing in people coming to our oasis from
Yeah,
all over the world,
yeah.
literally from all over the world. And you're right, it's really preaching the same message that Joe Dudley and S.B. Fuller preached for decades ago: being self-sufficient, control your own destiny, have your own business. We're just able to do it now on Zoom and just reach a lot more people and bring in a lot more people and great speakers from all over the
Yeah.
world as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now you've taken the organization internationally, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, once we went on Zoom, then we noticed there was a young lady coming out of St. Lucia. Her name is Euthalia Philgis, and she was coming every week from the Caribbean. But not only was she coming every week, she was bringing someone with her every week.
Mm-hmm.
So we realized, like, I approached her. I said, we'd like to start a Caribbean group. And she said she was glad that I did because she said they were talking about doing it already. So
Yeah, yeah.
so, so if I hadn't done it, then they were going to do it anyway. And then the same thing happened. We had a young lady out of Harare, Zimbabwe. Now, because of the time difference, she was getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning to come to our meetings. And that
Yeah,
caught our attention. Like, you mean you're
yeah,
getting up at
yeah,
3 in the morning just to come to our meeting?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so she helped to start Every Dot Black Africa. So
Mm-hmm.
we have Every Dot Black Caribbean that meets every Tuesday, and Every Dot Black Africa, which meets every Thursday. But I told the young ladies, I said, what I want to hear from the entrepreneurs in the Caribbean. Well, I want to
Mm,
hear from the entrepreneurs in Africa. So what they do is schedule entrepreneurs in the Caribbean to talk to us, to share their stories and what challenges they have and
mm-hmm.
what is it like running a business in Africa. I don't know. I'm not in Africa. So they're sharing, the African entrepreneurs are sharing their stories with us. And the one thing that I kind of didn't expect, but I'm pleasantly surprised,
Mm,
is that even though they're in Africa, even though they're in the Caribbean, we've been doing this about a year and a half now, and it's almost like the accents are different, but they're still like family. It's
mm,
like they're still, we all come from African descent.
mm-hmm.
There's still this common bond that comes through. I can't explain it. It's that
Mm-hmm.
culture that
Yeah.
even though the languages are different and whatever, it's like it's still that culture that we're talking about, how our parents raised us, and sharing the same stories. And so anyway, that was kind of a pleasant surprise.
Well, Jimmy, as I think about it, every person is like on a piano, you have like C, D, E, F. Every person is like a note on the piano, and every group there's a consciousness. So, like uh African people may be an A. Europeans may be a B.
Right.
Caribbeans may be a C. But then when you go back, I guess, to a common route, a common
Hmm.
route,
Hmm.
there's, I guess, a conservation of consciousness. Well, think about this. You can literally go back because of the birth process to the first man and the first woman.
Hmm.
you know that that everybody has a mother and everybody has a dad. So eventually go back. And so if you look at the different races, they may have come up in different vibrations, but each one will have their different vibrations. I often, it was around kindergarten, a very diverse kindergarten, and the black kids almost automatically had rhythm. When they play the kindergarten songs, they'd start, it's like they
Right.
seem to know what to do.
Right.
And most of the white kids didn't. It was like it just was not there.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
over time, I watched them learn it. I come
Okay.
back, and by the end of the day, but still, one was very natural, the other was a learned behavior. But
Right.
for a person looking on, you couldn't tell the difference.
Right. Right.
Wow. But Jimmy,
Um,
at this place that you are is so unique now and so timely because information is the new asset. Information is the gold. Information is the diamond mines, and even with that,
yeah.
with the cryptocurrency, once again,
Hmm.
that's really an information value system. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Cryptocurrency and like I said, the metaverse I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are not aware of the metaverse, you might see folks with the headset. Oculus is one. Oculus is made by Facebook. But I think, and I know Facebook has been taking a hit. Their stock has gone down over the last year or so, but I think they're going to get it right. I don't think this technology is going away. And people may not realize, but there's a lot of property and a lot of things that are actually being bought right now in the metaverse, where people are spending millions of dollars on property in the metaverse because they want to be first to
Uh-huh.
have it. And so the idea is that they're getting property now, virtual property.
Yeah.
And so when the masses get there, they will already be there with their storefronts ready to serve them. And so there's a race right now to be first.
Now, is there a way you can kind of break down what is the metaverse to a room
Sure.
temperature IQ?
Well,
Okay, to a
the,
person who I hear the words, but
yeah.
and I've never done it.
Oh, you got to,
Every time I
got,
see the devices, I think about, you remember the kaleidoscopes
mm-hmm,
that we used to
right,
put.
right. I remember those.
So
Well,
yeah,
you
tell
got
us
to
a little
try it
about
out.
it. Yeah.
The way that I explain it is the metaverse. We're all familiar with websites. Websites is something we look at.
Hmm.
It's two dimensional. Basically, we're looking at a website. When you put on that Oculus or the headset, virtual VR headset, you're not looking at it. You're in it. You
Okay.
are a part of. You're inside this virtual world,
Hmm.
and you can look to the left, you can look to the right, up, down, and you can see other people or other things. Um, that's the only way I can explain it. You're
Hmm.
literally in a virtual world. You can talk to people. You can um, make purchases
Uh-huh.
online. You can go to concerts. You can go to lectures. There's all types of things. And so one of my goals or dreams that I would love to do is, and I mentioned Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. earlier, we're doing a legacy project for him, documenting his legacy in business for over 50 years with the Dudley Hair Care products. I would like to have a virtual museum so people can go in and see all of these interviews we've done, so they can see the 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 photos, the awards, and just literally see it no matter where they are. They'd be
Yeah.
able to put on this headset and literally go and hear the interviews and see the people that we've interviewed. Um, so that's my long-term goal. I would like to do that. Um,
What?
but yeah, I
Yeah.
tell people, don't be afraid of it. If you get a chance, you could probably go to Best Buy or something like that. and just ask them, just check them out, take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just said something that I was not aware of, and as you said it, it made sense. The kaleidoscope and the that like it's like like you said, a two-dimensional world. You see it. It's like
Hmm.
you're standing over here watching Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
But the metaverse, I guess the programming puts you in it. So
Yeah.
I
You're
yeah,
li- you're literally you could be at Niagara Falls. Now, of course, you're not physically there,
yeah,
but you're seeing everything as if you were there. You're
yeah,
seeing and it's funny because I've seen people, they put the headset on and they'll reach out trying to touch the water,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
because it's so real,
yeah.
it's like you're really there. Uh, yeah,
Well, I saw something where they were putting some type of sensors on people's fingers so that you can actually get the sense of touch.
yeah. They're working on that. I don't know how far. I don't know if it's available, but I did see that article too, where
Mm-hmm.
they're literally you can shake hands or literally something to do with the way air is pressed. If you put on this glove and electronically, if air is pumped into the glove at certain, it's almost feeling like you're shaking someone's hand,
Wow.
even though you're
Yeah.
not um, you know, in
Physically doing it.
it's
Yeah.
physically doing it. Yeah.
Well, as you're talking about it, man, it really brings the Matrix to life.
Yeah. 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 That's a good example. It's like the
Yeah.
Matrix, like the movie
Yeah.
The Matrix with
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah. And so it literally, as you were talking, because the thing, my missing link was being in the picture.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that I didn't understand. But now once you said that, then I said, wow, that's like the Matrix. And so like when they would go make the phone call, that's like
Exactly.
going into the
It's exactly like the Matrix. Yeah.
wow.
It's the exact
Yeah.
same thing. And so you
Wow.
can, when you're in the metaverse, you can have what's called an avatar, where
Mm-hmm.
you change your clothing and whatever. And believe it or not, there are people that will sell you virtual clothing now. There are virtual architects that will build you virtual buildings in the metaverse. There's a real estate agent out of Florida. She's going to be one of our speakers in the next
Uh-huh.
couple of weeks, maybe in July. No, she's going to be in July. Very successful real estate broker.
Uh-huh.
She is really pushing to how to get her brokerage firm on the internet, on the metaverse. Excuse
Yeah.
me, in the
Yeah.
metaverse, because real estate agents, brokers, they already know the process of buying and selling. So, and properties being bought and sold now in the metaverse right now.
Yeah.
So,
So so as you're talking, so let's just the idea of a property. So a
okay.
property is really a program.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it is really because it
Yeah,
doesn't physically
it
exist.
doesn't physically exist, so it's a program in this virtual world now
Right.
that you can claim ownership of, I guess, because you own the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
This
you can buy a lot. You can buy
yeah,
lots.
yeah, yeah,
And and also when I say the metaverse, there's not just one metaverse.
uh-huh,
There are multiple metaverses. Some metaverses are owned by large companies like
uh-huh,
Facebook. I think Apple's working on it. The big companies, Google,
uh-huh,
they all want their own metaverse. Some metaverses are what's called decentralized. They're not owned by any one particular company,
uh-huh.
but Decentraland is the biggest decentralized metaverse where it's sort of like shareware is like, and I'm not sure how they created it,
Yeah,
but it's not owned by any particular company.
yeah,
But you can still go into these metaverses just
uh-huh,
like you would go into different websites. You can go
yeah,
into different metaverses and experience what that metaverse is about, whether it's
yeah,
about business or gaming or sports, whatever arts, whatever it is about.
yeah. And I guess within the metaverse, because I went back to that movie. Remember Ready Player One?
I haven't seen that. I've
You
heard
haven't?
about that.
Oh, you gotta
No,
see it
yeah,
because it really it was so far ahead of its time. I mean, it had the metaverse, and there was this intersection of the reality and the metaverse.
Okay.
And as you were talking about the companies owning, so evidently a company would own like all the programs that define the parameters on which everybody else operates. So if there's a street, then let's say Facebook has whatever the programs that generate that street, they have that, and then a person interacts with that program, and then there's a control program that's controlling the interaction.
Well, I can explain it. I don't know if you want me to do this or not, but I
uh-huh,
actually, as you're talking, I have a
uh-huh,
metaverse class that I give,
uh-huh.
and I pulled up a couple of short videos. I don't know if you want me to share with you,
I
or
like that. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
let me share my screen. You have to
Okay.
make me a
Yeah,
co-host.
yeah. This is interesting, man. Let me see. Uh, okay, multiple sharing. Yes.
Okay, and this I'll share this with you. I'm just going to
Uh-huh.
share. I'm not going to share everything with you,
Uh-huh.
but there's a few. I hope you can see and hear it.
Yes.
Um, Now, this guy, he talks about how you can buy property in the metaverse.
And this one right here is Decentraland. This is going to be our first example right here because this is probably one of the most well-known ones, and there's a lot of opportunity, and this is probably where a lot of the money is going to right now, at least from what I can tell. And so as you can see, it is quite literally a digital world. It almost goes on for what feels like forever, and there is a lot of space here, there's a lot of room, and you would be amazed at what a small little piece of property, like just like what we're looking at right now, this 25 by 25 little square section, you would be amazed at what these are selling for online, and I'm going to show that to you right now. So I'm going to exit out of this, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Decentraland marketplace. And so here I have it sorted by land. If you want to see this, just go to decentraland.org, go to marketplace, search for land here, and then I have it currently sorted by name. But what we're going to do is sort it by the cheapest piece of land that you can buy. And as you can see right now, the cheapest parcel on here is 3,890 mana. Mana is the token that this metaverse uses as currency. Every metaverse that we go to is going to have its own currency or its own token, and you have to buy that token in order to then buy the metaverse on that platform. So keep that in mind. And for this platform, they're using a token called Mana, and it costs 3,890 mana to buy this parcel right now. As of right now, one mana is about $2.70 USD. So realistically, this is probably about a $10,000 US purchase. And if you want to go see what it looks like before you purchase it, you can click on jump in right there. We're going to go in as a guest just so you can see it. And now we are about to drop into the metaverse, and we're going to show you exactly what a $10,000 piece of property looks like on Decentraland. It's pretty amazing, and it's going to blow you away. Okay, so here's the parcel that we just dropped into, and as you can see, it's about $10,000 and there is nothing here. So this tiny little square from basically this corner right here to this corner right there, and then all the way around, is going to cost you $10,000 USD, and then you can build whatever you want on it. This guy has built what looks like almost like an aquarium or something. This guy on the side here, it looks like he has like arcade games or something. Oh, and it's fenced off. I can't even get into it. Let's see if we can go around this side. Okay, there we go. So he's got like arcade games that you can do whatever with. I don't know if you can even interact with.
I'm gonna stop that, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
And bear with me. I just want to share one more very short.
Yes.
This one is another one and talks about the money that's being spent.
So let me share with you some mind-blowing numbers as far as how much money people are spending on it, and then we'll get into the cool stuff. So the first one is from the Metaverse Group, which is a Canadian real estate investment company in the digital space that bought 116 parcels of land, each about 52.5 square feet, for a grand total of 6,090 square feet, which is not huge. Just for context, that's roughly the size of 3 tennis courts or about 1 basketball court, or a little bit bigger because a basketball court is about 4,700 square feet. And for that amount of land, they paid 618,000 mana, which is another cryptocurrency that by today's valuation is worth roughly $3 million. Now that was the biggest digital land acquisition in history until recently, when that record was smashed by another company called Republic Realm. Republic Realm is another digital investment company that spent $4.3 million buying virtual land inside of Decentraland, which is another very popular metaverse. It's also the same company that created the ultra-luxurious Metaflower, which is a mega yacht with a hot tub, a DJ booth, and 2 helicopter landing pads. All it's missing is Doug DeMuro to review its quirks and features. Now, someone bought that yacht for 149 Ethereum, worth about 650,000 US dollars. According to Grayscale Trust, which by the way is a group of really wealthy investors, they say the metaverse is a $1 trillion opportunity. That's $1 trillion in revenue per year. Right now, no company in the world comes even close to making that kind of money, and the land is supposed to play a big part of that revenue in the metaverse. So the question is, how is buying something that is limitless supposed to make you money? The answer is, it's not limitless. There's a limited amount of this digital land, the same way that there's a limited amount of digital bitcoins. Just because they're digital doesn't mean there's an infinite amount of them. Now, when it comes to making money from this virtual land, the strategy right now, at least the short-term one, is to buy the land and to sell it to someone who wants to pay you more money for it, which can sometimes work. But the long-term strategy, and the real reason that people are spending millions of dollars on land, is because they are speculating that someday the land they own will become a place where people come together by the millions, kind of like Facebook is today. Kind of like where Central Park was decades before anyone knew what Central Park would eventually become. So they are speculating that their land will eventually become that place. Now, a way to make money with this land is to charge fees to people that come here. So for example, if you want to host live events, you can charge fees for people that go there. You can also lease your land to someone else and let them take care of it while you charge them fees. Or you can actually host live events with video games or even live concerts. A great example is Justin Bieber, just last month in November, put on a free concert in the metaverse. Now, it was mostly a publicity stunt for the company that created it, but a lot of people tuned in from all over the world to watch Justin Bieber sing in the metaverse live. And it wasn't perfect, but people enjoyed it more than they thought they would, because who would have guessed that people don't always want to go to a live concert considering everything that's going on around the world. So this land has real-world practical applications too. Another great example is Snoop Dogg, the D-O-double-G himself, partnered with Sandbox to build a virtual mansion that will house his NFT collection. People can go up to it and walk through it, interact with him, and he'll eventually put on concerts for them. And you can even buy land all around his mansion, which, love that or hate that, has a lot of value to a lot of people. All of this stuff.
Well, I'm gonna stop there. I don't want to take you up the whole show.
Yeah.
But some people are paying over $500,000 just to be Snoop Dogg's virtual neighbor.
Wow.
I know.
You know, this thing, it's like all of the drivers of people's decision-making process. I want to live next door to Snoop Dogg. I can't buy land next to his because somebody else already owns it. But if I can get into the metaverse, you know, then I can own the piece of land next to a digital land next to his house that nobody else can get now. Now I'm Snoop Dogg's neighbor.
Exactly.
It also reminded me of like Monopoly on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that as you move around, you interact with this virtual world. But you know, I keep going back to the Matrix. And so whoever creates their metaverse owns all the programming that defines what is.
That's why Facebook is spending, I don't know how many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars creating it. Yeah.
But on the other hand, somebody else can come along and build a more enticing metaverse.
Yeah.
And the way people's consciousness moves now, like the millions of people that were in Facebook metaverse can go over to the next one.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That's right. So,
you know what? We better find a mountain and a cabin and let all this stuff play out, because I think it's mankind has to be extremely egocentrical to think that we are the only ones in the entire universe, billions of years old, that have come up with this. We may be a speck in another metaverse. Everything that we exist may be one speck in this zillion miles long metaverse created by somebody else.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Right.
Wow.
So anyway, I hope I didn't take up too much time, but I wanted to,
No,
when you
no,
talk
no.
about it, I wanted to share those short clips with you.
Well, but I think it's important because your real goal, Jimmy, is to give information to help people become entrepreneurs, help people change their lives. And so this was powerful, and we're going to do some more delving into it. Just what you've shared now has piqued my interest enough that at least maybe I'll go put one of those things on,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
okay, and see what it's about.
And if you're ever in town, I've got one. So if you're ever in
Yeah.
town, I'd be glad to share it with you.
Wow. Wow. Well, Jimmy, you're now at the forefront of all this electronics. Let's backtrack a minute. Where did you grow up, man? What were your early years like as a child and your family? What was that
Well,
about? Uh-huh.
well, I grew up in Flint, Michigan,
Uh-huh.
and actually had loving parents. My father, I think he finished the 8th grade. My mother finished high school, and we didn't have any money, but we always were provided for. And I say we, I have a sister, my sister Kim and I, it's just the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know we were poor because,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't homeless. We had food, we had whatever we wanted for Christmas. And it didn't really hit me until my father passed away. And I was going through some of the paperwork, getting things ready for the service, the funeral and everything. And I saw one of his old income tax returns. And I wonder, how did he do it? How did he provide for us with such little income, But two things that our parents instilled in us. One, they said that we can achieve anything we want as long as we're willing to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to believe, you got to be willing to work for it and get an education, because as long as you get an education, that's something no one can ever take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And those two things stuck with me, get an education and be willing to work for something that you really believe in, something you're really passionate about. And so when I went to the way school, I knew I wanted to go to college, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up getting a job with the Social Security Administration after I graduated from college. It had nothing to do with what I went to college for,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a job and I needed it, had a young family at the time. So I took the job. But after about 6 years working there, I hated working for somebody else.
Mm.
And I started looking at, because I would have ideas. Actually, I was trying to get in the computer department with Social Security Administration, and because my degree was not in computers, I wasn't getting anywhere. And I had these ideas, and I just couldn't pursue them. And so I started looking at ways to have my own business.
Mm.
And I tried Amway. I tried selling hot dogs at the county fairs. I tried real estate. I tried
Yeah.
a janitorial service. Actually, I had a couple of janitorial services. And in my second janitorial service, a friend introduced me to a Macintosh computer.
Ooh. Okay.
And the light bulb went off.
Uh-huh.
And I saw it. I said, "Oh man, I got to get into this." And that was
Wow.
in the fall of '87. And in January 1988, I started a company called McMaster's Computer Training Service. And I tell people I had two problems, two obstacles. One, I didn't have a computer yet.
Wow.
And I didn't know how to use one. But I couldn't afford a computer at that time, but I could afford the books.
Uh-huh.
And I bought the books and I read the books on how these programs worked.
Uh-huh.
And I would go to my customers. I'd say, "Yeah, I help you with your computer." I'd go to my customer and I'd read the book, so I know what it's supposed to do. And that's how I learned on your computer.
Wow.
And until I was able to start get enough business to get my own computer. And it was funny because one of the first jobs I had to train someone was training a secretary for 1 day at NASA, right? This is a funny story. And so we did. I said we had another guy to help me out because he knew more about computers than I did at that time. And so we trained her at NASA. And so we went to the Army and said, we just did a training job for NASA. And so they didn't know it was one person for 1 day. But but then they hired me to train the officers at that time it was Fort Monroe. I think the fort's closed down now. Fort Monroe in Hampton, Virginia. And once I got in with the Army, it started to take off because they would call me back every month because there's new officers coming through all the time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it was a revolving door at the military.
Yeah.
They always got people coming through needed training.
Wow.
And then that led to training at the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard. And then I realized, man, nobody knows how to use this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've started sending out flyers around the country. I would buy the magazines that produce Macintosh computer magazines, like Macworld and Mac Today at the time. They would sell me their list of subscribers. So all these people in North Carolina, I know they get Macintosh magazines, and I would make up a flyer. I'm coming to North Carolina, and I'm going to do your training for you. And they would sign up. I would get a room at a hotel, Hilton or something. By that time, I had computers. I'd haul my computers in, and I'd be in Raleigh for a week teaching people how to use computers. Then I would go to Charleston, South Carolina for a week teaching people to use computers. Turns out I had to hire other instructors. I had to get an office manager and a marketing person. We were covering 8 states.
Wow.
30 cities in 8 states on my route. But then I realized I needed to start specializing, and I couldn't keep up with everything. And I started specializing in database development. And then I started helping companies with their data, manage all types of data. And so the last job I had was helping a medical clinic in Raleigh, a surgeon. He wanted to have a database to run his practice, his medical practice. So I created a database that kept track of appointments and surgeries and meds and all types of things. And that's when I decided to leave to do what I really wanted to do. Like, I'm always helping somebody else. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of went down that road of starting Every Dot Black. And so it's funny, I was making really good money then, but this is more rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just really is. It's more rewarding than doing that 9 to 5
and just making money.
And yeah. And some people don't realize that.
Well, Jimmy, there's some real learning points. I love to hit some learning points. You had an idea, okay? And the idea was you wanted to teach people how to use computers. And now most people would say, well, when I get a computer, I'm going to start, but not Jimmy. So to our listeners, if you have an idea, ask yourself, well, what can I do to further my idea with what I have available? And so Jimmy said, I got the books. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I'll do is I'll learn everything from the books, hang my shingle out. See now that really has a level of belief in yourself. And that's why I wanted to hit this point, because if you don't believe in yourself, you can have all the computers in the town and you still won't be successful.
Yeah. And you're right. You're right.
But if you believe in yourself, you can take what you have to get what you want. So I take my hat up to it. And then you did what I call leveraging. That I used to wonder why people got letters of recommendation. I had a coach once and he says, Doc, you don't get letters of recommendation. You do all this good work and you need to get letters where people say, oh, Doc is great. He's the best. He does this. He does that. And how you were able to take, like you say, you worked one day. Okay. And then you took that one day and it was truthful. I did work. I trained for NASA. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Nobody ever asked you how long. Did they?
Well, but it's funny though, NASA called me back years later, and I did do a stint with NASA for about 2 years, teaching people at NASA how to use computers. And the other thing I didn't mention too is that once I knew I wanted to get into that computer thing, then I took a job at a computer store just so I could be around them. I still couldn't afford one yet, but I wanted to be around them and learn about them, Wow. And so between that and reading the books, that's how I got started.
Wow. Jimmy, that should be an inspiration to anybody. So get a job doing what you like, around what you like, okay? Don't worry about the how. Take what you have, work with that to get what you want.
Yeah.
And just thinking about that, doing that, you created a vibration that attracted everything you need. And from that point on, you didn't have to worry.
And it's ironic, and I look back on my life, and this is a true story. Since I started that, I've never looked for a job.
Right.
People have come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I created databases for companies, and one president would look at it and he says, "Who did that database?" And they would come to me.
Yeah.
I had a doctor, the medical software I created. I didn't seek a job with him. He
Uh-huh.
saw something I did on the internet and came to my house on a Saturday morning
Uh-huh.
to meet me because he saw I was local and wanted to know if I'd help him set up his practice with his computer system.
Wow.
So once, it really happened that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, the other thing is, Jimmy, and is excellence. If you don't do a good job, the only thing that
Yeah.
spreads faster than the fact that you did a good job is the fact that you didn't.
Right. Right.
Okay. The negative spreads much faster than the positive.
Right.
But the fact that you did a good job and did good work.
Yeah. Then other people saw it and they started coming to me. Right.
And that's what I really want, for many entrepreneurs, that's, you can get into entrepreneurship, be in business for yourself, and get so wrapped up in, you might say, window dressings. But the bottom line is, do you do good work?
Mm-hmm.
Are you reliable? Are you punctual? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have those things covered and you understand the process, then you, like I said, you'll never, someone once said, when you do what you love, you'll never work again.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
And when I
Wow.
looked back on my life, like I've had probably about 4 different offers. Some I've actually turned down. I can't do everything.
Yeah.
When I started specializing in database development, then I had companies would come to me. They would see a database I created, and my name get passed around, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question, Jimmy. When you've created that type of vibration, I know one of the challenges many small businesses have is the inability to scale up. Now, do you ever
Yeah.
look back and think of like the training institute to say, you know what, let me spin that off? And I'm just saying it because I've thought about it, but I've never been able to really do it successfully. But to take something that's working, and I noticed that this is something that you might say business capital B is good at. Once they get something that's working, they really understand managers and general managers. I was working with a company once, one of these waste removal companies, a major national company. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that the company operated, in each market, it had a general manager. And that general manager's mindset was like he was an entrepreneur in that market, and he treated it like it was his own company.
Mm-hmm.
And so, looking back, do you think maybe that you could have scaled up?
Oh yeah, definitely. And partly because when I was doing the computer training around the country and I started hiring other people, um, at that time I realized it's one thing to when you do it yourself. It's another thing when you start bringing on people and managing people. And I had my office manager and one of my instructors that didn't get along. And that's why I said, well, I'm just going to start specializing in database development.
Mm-hmm.
And I got
Yeah.
rid of the staff and I just
Yeah.
went on it on
Yeah.
my own
Yeah.
because I didn't need everyone
Yeah.
else to do database development.
Yeah.
But then when I thought about it, when I started Every Dot Black, and I think it was partly because of uh, just younger immaturity, but I thought about it with Every Dot Black, I wanted something that's web-based so that it can reach people around the world. I want something that people can sign up on the internet so I can wake up in the morning and see who joined. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want it to be
Mm-hmm.
an hourly thing because
Mm.
with web database development, you literally have to program. You
Mm-hmm.
pay by the hour for your time.
Yeah.
So I wanted something that would be web based so I can manage it from anywhere I was
Yes.
located. So
Yeah.
with Every Dot Black, yeah, I'm looking at ways to scale up,
Yeah.
and I have a different approach about it now. I don't know. It's just you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah.
But yeah, I find that when I've worked with guys who've gotten the MBA, and one thing I noticed that those who've been through that type of MBA training, it seems that that's the model that you learn in school, that scale up model, where
Hmm.
a lot of us entrepreneurs who are building from the ground up, we are so busy laying track, that we
Right.
never really get on the train.
Right.
you know. But wow, yeah,
No,
so
I have a different approach today.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just like say learning what I was good at and what I wasn't, at the time. Because when I was doing the computer training, I mean, I didn't go to school for it.
yeah,
I just realized I had a knack for it. I had a lot of patience with people. So, I discovered that I was a good instructor and that I caught on to the technology very
yeah.
quickly. And it
Well,
was a natural, and I was passionate about it.
beautiful. Well, to our listeners, that's a good lesson, because you can let a degree, a certification, like slow you down. But if you do good work, and the interesting thing is when people who hire you, they know what they want when they hire you, and when you're able to deliver, they couldn't care less whether you got degree. You
That's
could
right.
have you can have more degrees than a thermometer, but if you don't do a good job, they're not going to hire. But if you got a guy who does a good job, and the interesting thing when you're dealing with the decision makers, I think decision makers understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I never had to look for a job, because as a self-employed person, you're dealing with decision makers. And when
Hmm.
they get to know you, they want to
Yeah.
bring you onto their staff.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
had so many job offers because they get to know me, they get to see my work. Before you know it, they're offering me a job,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I didn't
Yeah.
even ask for. So
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, Jimmy, I tell you, if you look back, uh, you know, is there any particular obstacle that you felt you had to overcome, to make your breakthrough to success at to the next level in your journey?
well, probably the one thing, um, is it's really important to find a right life partner.
Okay.
Because I've been married before and actually several times, but if you're not with the right person that understands your quest, you know,
Mm-hmm.
why don't you get a job? Why do you go through this all this stuff? It's like, I shouldn't say that that way, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
have to find the right partner, um, to that understands the lifestyle of an entrepreneur and the
Mm.
pursuit, because it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the one thing that, looking back on it, I could, um I guess obstacles, or I don't know if you what you want to call it, or life
Yeah.
lessons
Yeah.
that I could have handled things differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you find that the entrepreneur route can be a lonely one sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And people don't may not realize that, but especially like, yeah, I've got an organization, Every That Black, with lots of members and weekly networking. But yeah, even though on a personal level,
Mm-hmm.
it can be very lonely at times. It
Yeah.
really is. And so, it's really important to, and that, it's not by design or desire,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd rather, if it's not the right person to
Mm-hmm.
be with,
Mm-hmm.
then you just have to pursue your dream as best you can,
Yeah.
and move forward.
And I've always felt that if that period of loneliness, if you keep on working at it, that when you get to that next level, you'll create a vibration that'll attract a whole different level of people into your life.
Hmm.
Many times when you're with the wrong person, as you grow and they don't, when you get to
Yeah.
that next level, they can really become an impediment. And I'm not knocking relationships, but I'm just saying that from an entrepreneur's point of view, one of the key things is to be surrounded by people who believe in you. And
I've seen it happen. In
yeah,
fact, a young lady that I trained in, she was in Charleston, South Carolina, and I taught her Quark Express, and she just took to it right away.
yeah,
Very, very good with it. And at the time, I told her, I said, "Look, I don't want to be running down to South Carolina every time I got small jobs. I like to give
uh-huh,
them to you, And so I gave them her jobs, and she did it for about a year, but it didn't work out. But she learned so much
Uh-huh.
that she got a job with the college there in Orangeburg, South Carolina, to manage the computer lab.
Wow.
Because she was able to manage the computer lab, she was able to go to class for free, take
Uh-huh.
classes. She got her degree,
Uh-huh.
ended up going to Maryland to
Uh-huh.
teach English, and now she runs the English department for the whole state of Maryland.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, sorry to say, her husband at the time, he worked in the factory when she started. He worked in the factory now,
Uh-huh.
but she moved on, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But, so I've seen it firsthand where and she credits me, and I told her, I said, I didn't do the work. I maybe got her
Yeah.
the little catalyst to get her started, but she did the work to get
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
friends to this day. Every now and then I'll hear
Yeah.
from her. She'll let me know what's going on. She was pursuing her doctorate the last time I
Yeah.
talked to her. She's probably got it by now.
Yeah. Well, that's a strong learning point for entrepreneurs, because when you're on that path, if you're not with the right person, you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
Do you give up your dream? I was speaking with a lady once, and she was sharing that she wanted to achieve, get into a certain professional career, and her husband just didn't see it. He was
Exactly.
like, "You need to keep working. You got a good job down here in the department store. You hang in there another 5 years, you get a raise. But
Exactly.
you get a check every Friday, and that's what we need." And she said something very interesting. She said she did not leave him, but she acted as though she was respectful. But she said, "I'm going to pursue my dream, but I'm just not going to talk about it.
Hmm.
You know, if somebody's not going to support me, I'm going to keep moving."
Yeah.
And she was getting ready to she wanted to go to college. No, she'd been to college. She wanted to go into this professional training program, and it required a lot of money. And at that point, she was thinking, like, you know what? I don't have the money. We have a good life. He doesn't really want me to do it anyway. And she said she went down to a business meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked some, like a networking event. And when she gave an analysis, she spoke on a subject, and she spoke with such clarity that a person was there who was on the
Wow.
board of directors at the school
Wow.
and said to her, "Do you have an MBA?" And she said, "No." He said, "Well, you should. You should be in business. You should be." And she said, "Well, I just don't have the money." And that person made it possible for her to get a grant and scholarship. And
Wow.
she moved on. She went on to the school. And it's very interesting. She said that her spouse, they didn't even have to really go through a what do you call it, a negative divorce. Her spouse felt that he wouldn't be comfortable where she was going.
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
he could not see himself in a boardroom. And so he literally he divorced her, which was like,
Wow.
whoo.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
But Jimmy, if you look back, couple questions, because we've had so much fun, man. We try to keep our interviews to a certain time, but
Right.
one of the things about doing interviews in this format is you go where it leads you. Um, if you look back, what would you say was your greatest accomplishment to date? Because I know you're going to be doing some other great things.
Yeah, actually, there's something on the table that I want to share with you. I don't want to share it on camera now because it's not a
Yeah.
done deal, but I'll
Right.
share it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest accomplishment to date, um, oh boy, I think I think pres preserving what Dr. Dudley has done
Mm.
to share that with literally thousands of people, and also just the creation of Everyday Black to so people can come together and network. It's really satisfying, gratifying to me when I hear of members that have hooked up or partnered on something. You
Yes.
know, they're helping each other. They're partnering on projects. Some things I know about, some things I'll probably never know about.
Right.
But that's just really, it's really satisfying to know that through Every Dot Black, that people can network and partner with one another and improve their lives together, you know, helps and support one another. That's really gratifying.
Wow. Man,
And
that's
like I said, and
powerful.
also sharing the stories of those that have gone before us.
Yes, that's powerful. Yeah. Jimmy, if you look back, your life has been one of, like really, I'm gonna call it a life of purpose because clearly something was guiding you. I'm sure you had distractions along the way, right?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now, how do you handle your distractions when stuff just tries to pull you off the path?
Well, again, as I've gotten older, I don't stress out over things that used to really bother me when I was 30, 40 years old. Now it's like I just take it with a grain of salt and know that this too shall pass, whatever the situation may be. I don't look at things as, oh boy, you know, so I don't get too high, I don't get too low
Mm,
anymore. Whereas early on in my life, then some things I would think, oh, it's the end of the world. You know, it's going to happen. But
yeah,
you
yeah.
just, think things have their time. And so I just kind of, I don't know, just I pray about it. I pray
Uh-huh.
about things, and some things, you are out of your control. They say 92% of the things we worry about either never happen or they're out of
Hmm.
control anyway, out of our control anyway. So why
Yeah.
are we
Why are we
stressing out
stressing
about?
out? Wow.
Yeah, just and give things time. A good friend of mine, he's gone now, but a good friend, he was a mentor of mine. He says sometimes you just have to let things run their course. He said,
Mm,
just let him run its course, and I
hmm.
try to remember that.
Yeah.
So
If you had, you look at like you said, when you came out of college and you're going into the was it the Social
Social
Security
Security,
Administration?
right,
You
right.
know, if you look back now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, I think pursue your passion.
Mm,
And Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, if you don't know what your passion is, then if you don't know what your goal is, then your goal should be to find a goal.
mhm,
But I would say to identify your passion as early as you can, because I really bumped around. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I liked computers, but I still didn't know what that really meant.
mhm,
Um, and then I would say also to not let those distractions, not let others uh, dissuade you from doing what's really in your heart to do, and
mhm,
to be persistent about it. Because every step of the way, whatever I tried, whether going into the computer field or starting Every Dot Black, someone told me, people well-meaning,
mhm,
I don't see how that's going to work.
mm. Yeah.
You're not going to make any money of that. One of my cousins, and I respect him dearly and love him.
Uh-huh.
When I got into I specialized in Macintosh training with
Uh-huh.
Apple, and he goes, no, IBM is the company you want to be with. Because
Yeah.
his generation, it was IBM. And I said,
Yeah.
no, I think this Macintosh is onto something.
Yeah.
And he tried hard to get me to, no, you
Yeah.
got to let that Macintosh stuff go, that
Yeah.
Apple go. And so he told me years later, he goes, I was wrong. He's like,
I was
yeah.
wrong. Well, let me tell you, man, that's the
Oh,
power of an idea. Apple was so powerful, IBM had to change its name.
yeah. I'll share one other thing with you too,
Uh-huh.
is that sometimes, well, this was really difficult when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
My mother did cleaning work,
Uh-huh.
to help us survive. And my father did odd jobs, construction and different things like that. And so my sister and I went to college. And so it was really stressful for me to tell my parents, after I've gone to college, got a good government job with the Social Security Administration, that I'm going to leave and start a janitorial service.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave and go into cleaning. And
Uh-huh.
they worked all their life so that we wouldn't have to
Yeah.
go into
Wow.
cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once I got into the computers, and I tell you what really turned the tide is that I don't know if you remember AOL was
Yeah.
real big. Well,
Yeah.
Apple created their own version of AOL. It was called eWorld.
Uh-huh.
And I wrote to AOL and I also wrote to Apple and I said, we'd really like to start an area on AOL or area on eWorld for African Americans. AOL turned me down, but Apple did not.
Wow.
They flew me out to Cupertino, California for training. And for 2 years, I worked on eWorld. I was back here in Virginia at the time. But for
Uh-huh.
2 years, I worked on eWorld, creating a area for African Americans on eWorld. When those platforms were, it was Prodigy, AOL,
Yeah.
eWorld. Now they're all shut down now.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
worked on
yeah.
2 years for that.
Wow.
And there was a write-up in Ebony magazine
Uh-huh.
about African Americans, what they're doing on the internet.
Uh-huh.
And they wrote a short article. It was only a paragraph or two about
Uh-huh.
Every Dot Black, or what time it wasn't Every Dot Black then, but about Jimmy Davies signed a contract with Apple to create an area on eWorld for African Americans. My mother saw that in Ebony, and after that, it was like,
you were done. You were all right now.
I'm all right. My son's in
Yeah.
Ebony magazine.
17. Wow. But
Well,
Jimmy, that's another learning lesson. When you can write it down, the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain. Whatever, and to our listeners, if there's any idea that you have, don't sit on it. Write it down and put it in a fashion that it can get to the person. You determine who can make that idea real, and you write it to them.
Yeah.
And you may have to write it to them 10 times. They could just say, man, this guy, every month I get a letter from this bird. Let me just finally open this thing, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Apple, they took me up on it, and they let me create an area on eWorld on their digital platform at that time for African Americans. And when I look back on it, was really the predecessor to Every Dot Black.
Yeah.
It really was. So,
that's beautiful, Jimmy. I didn't know that. I go along with your mom. Yeah, man. My son's in Ebony. That's like
right.
my dad, when I was in college, my dad said, yeah, Herb's good. Herb writes and speaks calculus. And I said, I sure do, Pop. Yeah, you got it, Pop. Yeah, man. Right. But I tell you, Jimmy, that was a powerful lesson there, man. Yeah, I guess I have two more questions and we can wrap it up. We can go on forever. But if you look down the line 25 years, one of the things I've been finding in my life now is the further I look down the line, the more sense my life makes. If you look down the life 25 or 30 years in the future, what advice would you give your present self from the future, from where you're going to be?
Wow, that's a tough one. If I was 25 years in the future, what would I tell myself looking back today? Keep learning. Don't be, you got to keep learning. They say learning is lifelong learning. And just continue to help others, just help as many people as you can. And that's the way I look at it. I'm trying to help people understand they've got to use technology to better themselves in today's world. So, and if to be remembered when I think about it, it's like, I would like to be like, oh yeah, that was the turning point when I realized I need to learn how to use technology for my business, because Jimmy Davies somehow got that message across to me.
He said, I finally heard it.
I finally heard the message, right?
Yeah. Wow,
right.
Jimmy. Well, Jimmy, I just thank you so much, man. What's the website for Every Dot Black so that people can go to it?
Sure. That's just it. www.every, EVERY, and then a period, which is the dot, black, BLACK. And that's it. So Every Dot Black, we say, and dot black is the new .com. People kept asking me, everydotblack.com. Said, no, just Every Dot Black.
Yeah.
And one time I just said, dot black is like the new .com. And it stuck. It wasn't it became our slogan. People were like, oh, I like that. So I made it our slogan. Dot black is the new .com.
Wow. Because dot black is a domain then. Yeah.
It's a domain, right?
Wow. Well, Jimmy, I thank you for being on the program today. Any last words to share with the people out there in the world who've been listening who said, "Man, that guy's me."
Well, I would just say follow your dreams, be
Uh-huh.
persistent, don't give up. And the one thing I personally can't have trouble living with, if I have an idea I was really passionate about, and I did not pursue it,
Ooh,
and then somebody else came along and did it,
ooh,
that,
yeah,
or not to know. I'd rather try something and know it worked or it didn't than never try and never know. So that's just me. I'd rather try it, and I don't look at it as a failure. If it didn't work, I learned something from it.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, Jimmy, I tell you, this has been one of the most fascinating interviews, man. We have covered a lot of ground,
yeah, we did.
but I think it's on a level that, people on all kind of different levels of consciousness will hear. The young person may be inspired to say, "Man, you know what? Yeah, let me follow my passion. Let me find out what my life is about." You know, Another person may be at that job that they hate, and they just need to know that somebody was able to break out of that thing and didn't drown. You know,
Right, right.
it may be somebody who's been sitting on an idea. Like you said, I'd rather try it and find out it doesn't work than to never try and never know. That's a
Hmm.
powerful thought, man.
Yeah.
That there's somebody who has an idea, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of those people. I just heard something in our conversation, and I'm gonna make a move. I'm gonna send a project, an idea that I have that I've done all the work for, okay, but I had
Okay.
not moved on it yet. But because of this interview, I'm going to send that to the proper person. Okay,
Oh
so
wow.
thank you so
Cool.
much, Jimmy. You have helped me, and to our listeners, this is this is an interview that no matter where you are in life, there's a nugget here for you to help you be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire, always knowing that the best is yet to come. This is Dr. Herbert Harris. Be sure to visit our website, www.herbertharris.com, and learn about the Success Toolbox. Everything you need to get anything you want. Thanks so much, Jimmy.
Well, thank you, Dr. Harris. Thank you.
And so it is.